What's up, everyone, and welcome to another Bitcoin market update. In these videos, you will learn how to use technical analysis to forecast price movements in your favorite cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and others, and also see where we are looking to buy and sell these crypto assets ourselves. So let's get into it here with Bitcoin, starting on the monthly time frame. So as we see, we had this significant rise up. Our last low that we had set before the one that we're potentially setting right now is in September of 2020. Now we talked about when we were up here, we talked about we need to come down and set a higher low, and we said it's likely we will set a higher low somewhere above this $9,800 level. Now it's starting to look more and more like this is where our higher low is going to be set. We've been talking about the potential for that for a while now. And when the price draws down this significantly, it's pretty reasonable to assume that that's probably where your higher low is going to be set. And we also talked about a couple other levels that it could potentially go to, which is on the weekly at let's see, the weekly down here at like 19,400. But right now it's starting to look more like this is going to be the bounce. And we'll talk about a multitude of factors why that is. So the reason here is, one, you see these lower wicks here, which are pretty good for bulls buying the dip. This one in relation to the candle is not very good, but this one in relation to the entire candle stick is good. So the lower wick at this point is significantly longer than the rest of the candle, or at least the body of the candle, I should say. There's also declining bear volume, meaning that the sell-off this month is weaker than the sell-off that we had this month, which is not surprising because this one was pretty significant and had a lot of liquidations involved in it. If we look at the weekly time frame, we can see we have now officially confirmed the weekly bullish divergence here. So if we look at this, the low that we just had here, that we set when we came down from here, so we had a low, high, lower low right here, but we just barely wicked below this low and this low here. And then now we're coming up from that point. So if we look at the RSI and we look at this low here, this is a lower low in comparison, but the RSI printed a higher low. You can see we're at 44.19 and then 44.53. So weekly bullish divergences like that typically have pretty good follow-through strength. And so we'll see what we end up getting. We did close below the R1 pivot here on the weekly close, so we will probably see some resistance here around 37.6. But we could just as easily push right through that given the factors that we're talking about. So we have the monthly candle, we have the monthly declining bear volume, we have the weekly bullish divergence here. We also have the weekly liquidity grab below this low and this low. That's what these green check marks are for. This is where people were, this is where stop losses were. And so once you have stop losses below those areas, if we wick below them like this and then close back above, this is where big players were able to fill their positions before we moved up. So multitude of factors that are good news to the bulls. If we go to the 3-day, that trend continues with inside bar here on the 3-day time frame, bullish divergence here on the 3-day from this low and this low. And then you can see we are starting to see this nice white candle here with increasing bull volume. And the only main resistance levels on the 3-day time frame, the only one that's really relevant is this one up here at about 47K. So over the course of the month, this is going to be the area that I will look to potentially go short on if we do end up getting up to this level over the course of the month. Because if we look at this from a monthly perspective, where will we likely go to if we bounce? I mean, just a reasonable bounce from this low up would be somewhere around the R2 pivot, which is at like 46,200. So that would be like a reasonable bounce. 46,000, whatever it is, 500 or 200, or it's right around that zone. If we look at that from a 3-day perspective, that lines up right around this gray level. It's not at exactly that level, but it's pretty close. So that's going to be the area where I think that we're going to see pretty significant resistance. Right now, we don't really have any resistance on the 3-day time frame. But if we look at this from a 2-day perspective, we do have some resistance here. So this is this gray zone right here that we've talked about for the past several days now. So this is when we had our bull trend right here. We had a low, high, higher, low, higher, high. And then we had this breakdown. Now we had the breakdown. We came up. We almost tested this level, but we did not actually test it. And then we came down and we formed a higher low. And now we're coming up again into this level for the first time, making a higher high. So for the bulls on the 2-day time frame, what they want to see, if they want to really establish a good trend here and then see this trend potentially over the course of the next month take us up to 47K, what they would want to see is a candle close above this key high here, and then also the next 2-day candle a close above this key high. If they do that, this candle will end up being a strong support level, and we'll look for how the price reacts thereafter to that support level. This level is, I talked about going short on this level over the past several days on the first test of it. I still am considering it, but I want to watch how the price reacts to this level as we're inside of it, because right now, there's, like I just lined up at the beginning of this video, there's a lot of factors that are bullish right now. And so when there's a lot of factors that are bullish and you're trying to go short on the first kind of area of resistance after they kind of begin with the validation of like the bullish divergence, the declining bear volume on the monthly time frame, the monthly close is coming up pretty soon here in a day. I want to see how the price reacts to this level, even though it is an untested resistance level that I do think is pretty strong. I just want to see how the price reacts to it, and so I'll kind of keep a vigilant eye on the lower time frames to see how the price is reacting to this level as we go into it, and I'll look for signs for potential short opportunities. So if we look at this from a 1-day perspective, we can look at our resistance level that we have here. So this resistance level here has already been tested once here, and now we're coming into it a second time. So yesterday it looked like we might be rejecting off of this level, but you could see that when today's candle opened, we very quickly rejected that idea, and now we're trading above that. So now, if we're a bull, what we want to see is we want to see us go above this gray level. We want to see us go like this, close 2 candles above this, and then come down and retest this level, and then that'll be a good entry point for a potential long. If we look at this from a perspective of some other indicators, if we look at the super guppy here, this indicator is still obviously, as we've talked about, very bearish in terms of this trend. So this is a trend following indicator. It's really just a compilation of a bunch of different exponential moving averages, and when the fast moving averages, meaning the lower time frame moving averages, are below the longer term moving averages like they are here, you get this dark blue color and this red color. At least on mine, that's what I've set the colors to. And then when the EMAs, the fast EMAs, are above the long-term EMAs, you get the light green for the long-term ones and the light blue for the short-term ones. So typically, like we talked about here on the first test, it's usually a pretty easy rejection, and that's what we got here. But now we're coming into this for the second time now, and so we'll see how the price reacts to this now that we're coming into this for the second time. I do not think that we're going to go right through this zone, this in all these EMAs in the first test. What I think is more likely is one of two scenarios. either we will come into these EMAs right here over the next couple days, we'll close above this gray support zone, or well, then it'll be a support zone. If we close 2 candles above this gray zone and then we reject into it, this level should hold, and then we'll see potentially a higher high thereafter. So that's going to be something I'm watching for. The other scenario is this 2-day level holding. Oops, I always do that. Move this back up to where it was. So this is the other scenario. The other scenario is we reject off of this level on the first test, which is what my initial short hypothesis was, that we're going to reject off of this on the first test. But then once we came down, we formed this higher low, and then we have the multitude of bull factors that I said. Now I kind of want to keep an eye on what's going to happen here, because now it's looking like we could maybe go right through this zone. So what could happen there, what could happen there is we could see something like this, where we come into this zone, we reject off of it for the first test, and then the second test we go through it. So those are the 2 scenarios that I'm watching. Let's go to the lower time frames. If we look at this from a 4-hour perspective, bulls have just been in complete control since this low was set down here at about 30,100. Subsequently, we've came up, we came down, we formed a higher low here. Well, we really had a contraction here where we had high, low, lower high, higher low, and then a higher high. And then we came down, we formed another higher low, and then we came up again. So now, what are our main support zones here, and resistance? So our main support, is this purple zone right here. So it's this black candle right here, and that is actually, it's this candle right here. Either way, it's pretty much this horizontal level on the tops of all these candle bodies. That's going to be the main support zone. And then if we look at the main resistance zones from a lower time frame perspective, this is the main one right here. You can see we had a bounce off of this level right here, and then subsequently we traded down from that point. We also have one from over here. If we look over here, you can see, let's zoom in on this a little bit. So this is where we had our bear trend right here. And then when we pushed right through this zone right here and closed above it, this turned into support. You can see it held a support here. And then here, like we wicked below it, but we didn't get a candle close below it until right here. And then once we did, it was resistance, broke through it. And then right here, since this drawdown was pretty significant, it did not really do anything with that level. But then once we close below it, you can see once again resistance here, and then we broke down. So this is the other main zone that I'm keeping an eye on. So let's draw a little box around that with our trusty rectangle tool. Pretty straightforward on what we're doing here. So this is the main resistance level that we're looking at. It's a tried and true support resistance flip zone. So you can see we've already tested here though, once it became resistance. What is this? Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times. So now this is the 5th test of this zone. So usually when you get tests like this, they do not, when you get this many in a row, 5, usually the 6th test does not hold. So we'll see what happens, but in terms of buying the dip opportunities, this is the main support zone down here at about 35,000, and the next resistance is this next one up here at about 36,800. And I imagine that if we just keep going up on the 4-hour time frame at least over the next several hours, this 4-hour level probably will hold for the first test. If we turn on the pivots indicator, you can see one of the reasons why I think that as well is because the R1 pivot, The resistance level is inside of this, up here at about 37,314 roughly. So in terms of a short-term scalp, if we're looking for short-term scalp and kind of a top fishing play, we can kind of play these resistance zones here, and we could say, all right, I'm going to go short on this and go for a scalp short down to this purple level if you think this is where we're going to reject, or you can say I'm going to do this one down to purple level. So that is all I got for this one, guys. If you like this video, give it a like down below and subscribe for future educational content around crypto and blockchain technology. And if you haven't already, check out our Global Leutheria Telegram channel that we have. There's a link for that in the description below. This is where you can collaborate and learn with people from around the world that are interested in cryptocurrency and the different elements of the crypto economy as well. So you can learn through different things like our community chats that we do each Sunday, where we talk about a variety of different topics that we vote on in the community Telegram each week. You can also get your questions answered just on a day-to-day basis in the Telegram chat. And you can just meet some new people from around the world. So check that out. It is free. And until tomorrow, onward and upward.